Is this on? Oh, yeah, it is on. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Teaneck District 37 Town Meeting. It's not quite as glitzy as the one that you see the governor do. We have no curtain from which to walk behind. And I understand that there is a time when I'm supposed to take my jacket off during the course, that it's quite, there's a time during the presentation. I might not do that. I'll pull my sleeves up. Okay, thank you. But this is our version of a town hall where we do it in the evening so that working folks can come, and I know there are more people still kind of wandering in here. And it is my pleasure to welcome to Teaneck, the town in which I live and have lived for more than 40 years, the town in which I work, where my office is, and a great town it is. And what we are going to talk about tonight, is how we're going to deal with property taxes so that we can keep Teaneck and all the other communities in New Jersey safe and affordable places to live. So I am joined tonight first by my two Bergen County colleagues, Senator Paul Sarlo, who chairs the Budget Committee for the state of New Jersey. So if any of you want anything special in the budget, see him. Next to him, my colleague, also from Bergen County, Senator Bob Gordon, who we fondly call the policy wonk in our crew. So if you want something spelled out in bureaucratic language, see him. And then it's my great pleasure to present to you, I guess, the star of the evening. Our Senate President, my colleague in the state Senate, a guy who gets the centerpiece for coming the farthest all the way from Gloucester County. During the gubernatorial election, I learned how to pronounce it. It's Gloucester, not Gloucester. So be careful. My friend, my colleague in the Senate, our Senate President from Gloucester County, Steve Sweeney.
Up and spend some time with you. Where I'm from, Gloucester County, it's a little bit different than here. It's real flat. There are no hills. But one thing isn't different. Property taxes are too high. And they're too high everywhere. And you know, there was a study that was touted about how $70 billion worth of wealth has left this state over the last decade. But they're not millionaires that are leaving. They're seniors. They're seniors that can't live here anymore. And when you look at the average $7,500, and that's the average, which I know is a lot up here is probably higher, how can you afford to pay this type of taxes and live here? When the governor came out and made a suggestion that we could cut income taxes, we said, well, if we have money, we'll accept his revenue numbers. We said, we'll accept your number. But if you're going to cut a tax, cut one that really is a problem. And the tax that's really a problem is property taxes, not income taxes. You know, great idea. Everyone wants to cut taxes. Paul, Bob, Loretta, myself, we did some good things on business taxes. We eliminated the single sales factor. Big thing for businesses that they wanted for 30 years. Net operating loss for small, medium-sized businesses. Very good thing to help business community. But at the end of the day, this is the tax that hurts the people the most. So, you know, look, I believe in a millionaire's tax. Governor says he won't sign it. Yes. We passed it twice. We really made the decision that we weren't going to play politics with this thing because we need to get something passed now. We'll fight over that issue, and I'm sure we'll fight over it many times because of the fairness issue. But what we want to make sure is that we start this program now and get people help now. Our plan is $250,000 and below. It's not unlimited. So people that are making more than $1 million would get $7,200 under his plan. People making $50,000 get $80. It doesn't really work. And you know, I don't begrudge anybody that's wealthy. God bless them. But they're not the ones that really need the money. And that's not punishing or blaming or pointing fingers. It's iron workers. I'm a union iron worker that barely can afford his home that needs to break. It's working class people that need the break to stay here, not the wealthy people. And God bless them again. We've nothing against them at all. I'm happy for them to be wealthy. I bet every one of us in this room wish we were. But this is a tax plan. Like I said, it's very simple, and we're going to explain this a little bit, but then we'll take questions. Because unlike the governor's town hall meetings where he goes on for rants, we want to hear from you. $250,000 is the cap. All the money goes to the people in the middle class. And I can guarantee you the people in the middle class will spend the money. These aren't people that are going to put the money in the bank. They're going to go do the necessary repairs with their homes. They're going to spend the money and put it right back in the economy. And if you're going to do tax cuts, the one thing you want to make sure is that the money gets back into the economy, because then that's where the value really is. It creates jobs. Putting money in the bank and sitting on it isn't helping the economy at all. So give an iron worker $1,000, guarantee you it's going to spend it real fast. Give a millionaire $7,000, guarantee he's going to put it in the bank. Doesn't help the economy as much. So this isn't at all sexy. It's not all fancy. We're not even fighting with the governor on this issue. We agree we want to cut taxes. We just want to cut property taxes, not income tax. So we have charts here under the governor's plan of Hasbrook Heights Borough. Under his plan, $194. Under our plan, $987. The numbers are real, because what happens is people over $250,000 are not getting any of this money. This is going to the people with $250,000 below. It's not hard to figure out. So, again, not that we don't believe in millionaires tax, we do. We're just not going to get mired down into a situation where this relief does not come because of political philosophies. The governor says my plan's the same as his. It absolutely is not. It is not an income tax cut. It is a property tax cut. And you know, even if you don't make money, you pay property taxes, you're going to get a break under our plan. This is property taxes. So, Loretta, rather than give a long introduction, and we don't have loud, fancy music, you know, or curtains or anything else, or a boxing ring, we're here to answer questions. So I'd be happy to open up, and any of my colleagues that are here also. So, does anybody like to ask questions? Yes, sir. This is like Jerry Springer with the microphones.
I'm wondering, because on fuzzy math, my presumption is there are more people below $250,000 of income than people above it. Therefore, why isn't there substantial enough popular support to push this kind of a situation through, since it's clearly not just a majority, it's a supermajority?
Well, 95% of the people in the state fall under this category. 95%. And honestly, the people in the state, when it's been polled, by 2-to-1 support this against the governor's plan. Because, again, it's property tax relief for the people that need it the most. And, you know, honestly, we have a job to do, too. We're out here. We're here. We've been to a couple other town hall meetings. You know, I'm not the governor. We're senators. We don't get the stage like he does, but it's not going to prevent us from continuing to talk this message. The great thing is, you know, when we did this, 2-to-1, people prefer this over the governor's plan.
Maybe it's naive to ask, but why is it only 2-to-1 from a group of people who are 95% of the population who are clearly in need of this type of a situation?
You know, I think the general population, at least kind of communications that we get, so people are much more interested in a property tax deduction than they are in an income tax deduction, for all the obvious reasons pointed out by these charts and pointed out by Senator Sweeney. So it does have the most overwhelming support, but we have a saying in the legislature. It's the rule of 21 in the Senate, 41 in the Assembly, and 1 in the governor's office. That's what it takes to get something passed. So we are going to be fighting for this as we finish however it ends up, this year's budget, which under the direction of our Senate Budget Committee with Paul Sarlo, we are in the maybe midway point in putting together that budget. This is our plan. And if this is something that people in this room believe in, then you have to help by getting, however you communicate, with the governor's office, with letters to the editor, with phone calls, talking to your friends. It's the only way we'll get this through.
Yes, sir.
Senators, thank you for coming up, Senator Sweeney. Senator Sweeney, Senator Sarlo, Senator Gordon. I'm Keith Jensen from Fort Lee, running from Senator Loretta Weinberg's district, 37. My first question here is, on these property taxes, you mentioned before how most people leaving seniors are because they can't handle the property tax, and that's correct. There's a lot of people leaving because of that.
Excuse me a minute. There are seats up here, please, if you'd like to come in.
These property tax reductions, though, from what I understand, the majority of the property taxes, more than 60%, goes towards education.
Right.
So a lot of these seniors are paying extraordinarily high taxes for education. Have any of these reductions have anything to do with the school tax reductions, or is it just a simple portion of the property?
This is property tax reduction, and understand, the reason why these people are struggling, and I really go out of my way to not be partisan when we deal with this issue, but it's the governor that ran for office and said he wouldn't cut school funding, and they cut it. It's the governor said he wouldn't cut municipal aid, and cut it. You know, it happens all the time. When someone holds elected office, they run for it, and they promise, you know, a new pickup truck and a chicken in every pot, and then they get there and they say, you know something, I didn't realize how bad off we were. Everyone knew we were broke. And when you cut aid to municipalities, and when you cut aid to schools, honestly, the burden is on the back of the taxpayers. You know, and you can't, you know, and look, I'm a big consolidated, shared services person. I think we can run government a lot more efficiently and more effectively. But the governor can't have it both ways. He can't say I'm doing this and I'm doing that when he's the one that caused this property tax increase. Under his administration, the first 2 years property taxes went up 20%. Understand that, 20%. That wasn't our doing. They were his budgets. You only can blame John Corzine so long. And it's very simple. Less money to locals. They still have to employ teachers. They still have to have lights on. They still have to pick up, clean up snow. Pick up trash. You take more money from those governments and you're going to have, it's got to come from somewhere. So I wish we had more. Look, we spent a few $100 million in business tax cuts, changing, the single sales factor and the net operating loss. So we're doing what we can do, and we did some major overhauls on government that didn't make people really happy with me. But we couldn't afford to fund government the way we were doing and running the way we were doing it. And we asked our employees to contribute to their health care, and that's hard. But everyone's contributing to health care today. So we've done tough things, and we've done it in a bipartisan way. The governor needs to recognize that income taxes are not the problem, because they're not. No one is banging on my door. When I campaign, go knocking on doors, not one person has ever said to me, my income taxes are killing me. What they are telling me is, I can't live here anymore. And that's real. And the wealth, when I talked about the wealth that left this state, that's the people that have a little nest egg at the end. And they realize they can't afford to live here. So that wealth is our seniors that don't have any kids in school anymore, right? Or their grandkids are here, their kids are here, and we're chasing them out of this state. And that's what's sad about this. So, look, we're finding ways to get money to the people that matter. Millionaires don't need this help. Middle-class seniors, they need it, and that's who's going to get it under our plan.
Can I finish that? That was my first part of the questions. So I'll come back.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I got to get this down because I'm not a politician. Maybe one day in the future.
Oh, well, you ran for office.
I did run. But I don't speak.
Not a recognized politician.
Not a recognized politician.
Tom and I are
Okay. Representative. Get to my point. Governor Christie says a lot of good things about you and everything. I go to these town halls on his part too, and I'm sure if you took your jacket off too, he mentioned you got some pretty good pipes, so I should watch out that I don't get in trouble with you. But not on a partisan way, but just looking at, not looking at your mission and not looking at what the governor's idea is. a huge portion of what our taxes go towards are what we don't have in District 37 are these avid districts. I know Senator Sarlo knows about them. I know you know about them because you guys have tons of them.
You got a question?
Yeah. Avid districts. We have none in District 37. Not
Can
what
you
we
get a
got
question
here.
out of that?
It's a separate subject, isn't it?
That's all right.
Hurry.
Please let him hurry. Please, be respectful to each other.
We're tough up here, too.
That's okay.
So my question is, if we were able to have, when we have towns like Teaneck, Englewood, Hackensack have a lot of distressed families that could use a little assistance. When you have towns like Hoboken that are considered an avid district, where you can make any sum of money and send your children to school for free for a pre-K, you know, it's just not fair. And I got that we have to help out across the board. I got the progressive side. I'm for it. So that's okay. But what I want to know for yourself and specifically for Senator is, can we come out to come to with you guys to lead a majority, a super majority, to address the Supreme Court's rulings and even it out? Because if we were able to even it out and not allow the excessive spending in the avid districts and the inequalities, we would receive nearly a third, 33% property tax reduction.
Well,
and that's $7,000. Forget $1,000.
Well, listen, I got the answer for you on that question.
Okay.
It was called the School Funding Formula Act that we passed. And when we passed it, just so you know, it ended the avids as they know it. And it was a fair formula. It was money followed the child, no matter where you were in the state. And the reason why the avids are back is the governor decided to cut education funding below what the courts told him. Courts told John Corzine, courts told Chris Christie, if you go below this bar, then avids are back. Because we're not going to abandon the kids in the inner cities, even when they're struggling, even if we're not successful in failing school districts. So what happens is, what does Chris Christie do? He cuts funding. So what happened last year was $500 million that could have went down to school districts, went back into the avids. He brought them back. They were gone. And you know something? We came up with a fair funding formula. It was fair. Every child in this county would have been treated the same way. So much money for a high school student, no matter where you're at. Equal amounts. So much for elementary, so much for vocational schools. And wherever that kid went to school, the money would follow. Fair formula. He brought the avids back, and people have missed that fact. And you know, I have a lot of nice things I say about the governor, too. We get along. We try to get things done.
As opposed to me.
Yes. Listen, and we disagree on things that we disagree on. No, I did them back. No, we disagree on things, and we'll, you know, but when stuff like this, let's have an honest discussion. Habits were gone. We did a good job. There was a fight for 30 years over this, and we came up with a formula that passed muster, and he chose to violate it. Loretta?
Yeah, let me just add one thing, because Senator Sweeney really explained that an at-risk child or a special needs child, whether they went to school in Teaneck or Hoboken or Alpine, got the extra money. That was a fair funding formula. The courts accepted it, and Governor Christie threw it out.
What were you brought up?
Sussex County.
Barbara Mitrani from Leonia, and thank you very much for coming. I'm looking at these figures for Leonia in particular, $146 versus $1,000, but I don't really understand the program and how you got these figures. Can you explain it? I mean, it seems like a great savings, but I don't understand the calculation or how you arrived
We
at
took
it.
the numbers that the governor said was available for his income tax cut. And instead of leaving it unlimited for everyone to get an income tax cut, we capped it at $250,000. The governor projected 7% growth. We didn't. We thought that was too aggressive. We did it at 5%. So basically, we just took the money that the governor spread out. And under the governor's plans, you'll see people making $50,000 get a little bit of money. People making $1 million get $7,200. So that $7,200 that a wealthy person would get gets redistributed into the people that are under $250,000, and that's how we did it.
So is this average of 146 for Leonia based on the average income in Leonia?
Yes.
So how much reduction do they all get, like 10% off of their income
10%,
tax? Or what?
if your property tax, no, it's based off of property taxes. If your
I mean,
property taxes are $7,000, you would get $700.
But that's based, oh, I see. You get 10% off of your property
Your
tax.
taxes.
If your income is under 250.
Under 250, yes.
Okay, so this means that based on the property taxes, but how could there be such a big difference in Leonia then?
Well, because one is the,
Was
one
there not that
column
many
is
wealthy-
the governor's income tax,
It's
and the
income
other
tax.
column is this property tax proposal.
See, he's not talking property taxes, he's talking income tax.
So the left column is based
So
on
left-
average income,
Okay.
and the right
I
column
told
is
you the
based on
policy
average
wonk would
property
be here.
tax.
Okay, so people in Leonia would get $146 off of their income tax, but according to your plan, they would get 10% off of their property
property
tax,
tax.
which would come to about $1,000.
average.
On average.
On average. So the right column is based on the figures we have for the average property tax bill in that community. The left column is based on what I assume is
Yeah.
the average taxable income for that
Okay,
community.
and someone who makes, say, $300,000 doesn't get anything at all?
Not
Zip?
under our property
Zilch?
tax
Not under our-
proposal. Before we go to the next question, I'm not going to introduce folks in this room except for one person, because he's one of my predecessors and was really known as a giant of the Assembly, and I believe was very instrumental in the original school funding. Are you going to shake your head yes or no? But that is the former Assemblyman and a great mentor, and somebody who I sort of followed in the Assembly, Al Burstein.
In terms of
Use the
specifically
microphone.
in doing something, I think you have a great chance if you do the same thing with the tax and call people like we do when there's an election. And if there's an election and calling people to explain the position, and I mean, I would volunteer for that. I know they're coming to an office. If you can do that all over and specifically about the tax, I think you will get a wonderful base to help you get what you really want out of this, what we really want out of this.
Well, we have a website where you can go on and plug in where you live and all that stuff. I understand that's not it, but that's why we're
Person to person is
You're
the
right.
best way.
And listen, I agree with you, and that's why we're here right now.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, look, the governor gets the big stage. That doesn't mean we can't come out and talk to people every day like yourself, and we're doing it. You know, it's hand to hand, door to door,
But
trying to
get people,
explain it.
get others around as we do for elections. When we speak out and speak for candidates, if it happens to be at the same time,
Sure.
you can do that both, do the both. But I think that is the best way, humanize it. So you have people coming to Loretta's office as we do, and everybody that's appropriate, and I think people would be willing to do that, just like for an election.
Thank
And
you.
to explain what you're explaining to us, but get it out there.
Thank you. This man,
Hi. I'm not sure if I need a mic. Thank you. Yes? Thank you for coming. I really appreciate that. I just want to understand the math a little bit. Your figures, all the figures, whether they be the governor's figures or your figures, are based on a projected income and growth in the
And
state.
property tax.
No, I don't mean the savings. I mean being able to
Yes,
pay for it.
yes.
Is on a projected income of
You're right.
5% in your plan, 7% in his.
Yes.
In these difficult economic times, what's the fallback position if there is not 5% growth?
Well, we were at 4.43% last time we looked.
Right.
And we thought 5% was a realistic number. To be honest with you, 7% is not.
No, I understand.
You know,
What's
so-
the fallback in case 5 is too
Well, then we would
optimistic?
have to revisit this. You know, but honestly, we're trying to do this in a very reasonable way. We didn't inflate it. We didn't oversize it. We didn't make numbers bigger. We didn't come out here and say it's going to be 20% or 18%. We took numbers that the governor identified. You know, normally the fight is, you know, we don't agree with him. He's saying he has this much money for his was income tax. We just want to take all the money that he says, put it in property tax relief, and cap it at $250,000. So, like I said, if it was below that, we'd have to revisit. But right now, it's 4.43.
Thank
Wherever you want to go.
Good evening, my name is Victoria. I grew up in Teaneck and I recently moved back with my family. Thank you for bringing us here. Thank you for the plan. It looks interesting, unique, it's new. I'm a third generation union member. My grandfather was a Teamster. I work for the state. I'm a CWA member. And while we're having this discussion, it seems like we're missing the millionaire tax and leaving it out when it just has to be part of the discussion. It was reported recently that there's a $35 million shortfall in the governor's revenue projections. We clearly still need to talk about revenue, and we've never had more support than we have now with Occupy Wall Street back on the streets, with the entire state supporting millionaires tax. I have to ask you to continue to pursue it. I understand, especially you, Senator Sweeney, with your relationship with the governor, you continue to work with him, and often I believe that the governor is pulling the discussion towards his side, and we need to move back to the middle because the middle of New Jersey supports a millionaire's tax.
Well, we support it too. And I actually walked down to his office and put it on his desk once, and he vetoed it. I sponsored it the second time. He vetoed it. So I believe in a millionaire's tax. And just to be clear, to have some clarity, benefit reform was actually started by me in 2006. And it was not because I dislike public employees. It's because I understand, as a union leader, pensions. I deal with them all the time. And there's no free ride. Like a pension is very simple. If you want more of a benefit, if you want to retire earlier, if you want more of a payout, you put more in. This wasn't, I don't like you. This is, if I don't do something and show leadership, your pension is going to go bankrupt. And they go bankrupt. And then what do? Who do you blame? Oh, it was the state's fault. Well, the state didn't make their payments. Absolutely. But honestly, it was more than that. There's a thing called an assumption rate on the pensions. You assume you're going to make so much money. So if everything goes right, you're going to make 8.25%. That's what ours is, which is 0.75% too high. This is boring, and I don't want to get too much into details. But the problem was, we made 2% for a decade. So every single year, we were short 6.25%. Now, where I'm at, we go to our members every year. The actuaries come in, and again, it's not emotional. It's not sexy. They're numbers. You're short. What do you want to do? How do you fix this? Normally, it means you have to put more capital in. Or you change the benefits. It's very simple. Markets do great. That's good. You don't spend the money, you bank it. Markets do bad, you plan. What happened in the state was you had a 2% return on your money for a decade. Even if the state had put every single penny they owed into it, we would still be bankrupt. And I can go to bed at night really comfortable knowing that I was part of saving the pensions of 800,000 people. You know, and something special we did, we mandated that he makes the pension payment. You know that. The governor has to make the pension payment. This year is close to $500 million. This new budget year is $1.1 billion. Next year is $1.8 billion. And a lot of the pensions, COLAs were suspended on a lot of the pensions. Cost of living increases. A lot of those things are going to change in the very near future because what we said we were going to do has placed these pensions in a much more solid position, and they're going to be able to start bringing them back quicker. So, like I said, I'll take credit for benefit reform because I started in 2006, 4 years before the governor started. But it wasn't because I don't like you. Public employees should not be beaten up on. They shouldn't be scapegoated. But union leadership has a responsibility to be honest with their members. And that's what happened. They weren't.
Just to clarify, I wasn't asking about the pension, I was asking about the millionaire tax.
To clarify, I told you that. I answered it twice. I did it twice. I didn't duck the question. I told you exactly what I did. I took it and put it right on his desk. I walked down the hall, put it on his desk. I sponsored it the second time. But do I want to put the millionaire's tax in this, and then it never happened?
That's right.
I'm willing to fight for a millionaire's tax another day, but for today, if I can get people a 10% property tax cut, I'm getting them the 10%. I'll fight for the millionaire's tax because I believe in it. And I said that from the beginning. I believe strongly in it. I think it's fair. I don't think 16,000 people should get a tax cut when everyone else is paying more in this state.
You know, I'd like to correct. Our plan is not a millionaire's tax. It's a more than millionaire's tax. The first million, you don't have to pay the extra tax. It's only the $1 you earn over $1 million. And the Senate President pointed out there are only 16,000 people in New Jersey that this would affect. But we have a choice. Do we do a plan that we know he's going to veto, or do we take the plan that he put forth and say we're not giving an income tax reduction to millionaires? We're going to cap it at $250,000, and it's going into your property tax, not your income tax. So that's the choice here. We know that Governor Christie most times does what he threatens us he's going to do. So the choice here is a plan that he will have no out to veto, and it will give you a 10% property tax reduction.
Thank you. This is Nick Lento, Cliffside Park, New Jersey. I got this brochure walking in, and just reading it, this is such a stark, crystal clear contrast. Senator Sweeney, I understand, like you said in the beginning, you don't want to play politics, and we know that Christie can veto anything you do, so continually passing the millionaire's tax for people over $1 million, it's good politics, but it's not going to get anything done. So you've come back with this sort of attempt to work with the Republicans and to compromise. But the differences are so stark. According to what it says in this brochure, which I assume is 100% true, the tax relief that Christie is proposing would give 50% of the dollar relief to the top 5% of income earners. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And what you're proposing, what the Democrats are proposing, would give 100% of all of the tax relief to the lowest 95%. Now that's pretty darn close to Occupy Wall Street's ideal of the 1% and the 99. So I'd say this is pretty darn progressive. It is my hope, my prayer, and actually my demand that you guys don't let him push you back anymore. It's enough with the compromises with these people. We have elections coming up, and every Republican or Democrat, anybody that votes against what you're proposing now, in my humble opinion, does not deserve to be in our legislature or in our governor's chair. We got to knock these people out of office. If they can't support something as plain and simple and good and decent as this, they got a problem with New Jersey. That's my, I don't know if that's a question, but I'd like your comment on that.
I agree.
Thank you.
You know, there are people standing back there. We have chairs here if you'd like to come and sit.
Good evening. Welcome to Bergen County. Glad to have this opportunity to discuss this with you. I'm with Bergen Grassroots. We have about 20 members in the room. Will you hold up your hands, grassrooters? We're a group. There are about 300 of us. Senator Weinberg didn't raise her hand, but she is a member. This is, you know, there's no conversation here. This is a good plan. The other plan is a bad plan. But this has to happen. And I frankly think that the 5% is too high. The 7% is ridiculous as a projection of what's going to happen. And everything, his entire approach to running the state depends on that 7%, which makes this harder and harder to accomplish. And so what I have to ask you to keep putting the millionaire's tax on his desk. We let him veto it 10 times. Every time he vetoes it, you get more friends.
Well, I can tell you, during the benefit before, I felt very lonely. I can tell you that much. But honestly, you know, we do believe in it, and we're going to continue to push the issue. Like I said, the one thing we can't do is put you in the middle of a political fight. Because the taxpayers of this state You know, when you think about it, we got to do something to help you guys, especially if there's an opportunity to do it. Now, political gamesmanship, we could do it. Honestly, we could do it, knowing it's not going to happen. So do we take basically a pragmatic approach, get something done, and let's go back and keep pushing for it because it's the right thing to do. Like I said, I sponsored it the last time, and I walked it down and put it on his desk. We believe in it. No one here disagrees with it. So we're going to keep pushing for it, yes.
I just want to add one point. There are two elements. There are two elements to the millionaire's tax. One is we need the money. The other is it's fair. And it's something that should be done just because it's fair.
Well, you're repeating the things that we said all along when we were doing this. There's some people, all along we said this. 99.9% of the people in the state of New Jersey, there's over 8 million people live in the state. And only 16,000 of them got a tax cut. 16,000. And you know, look, the description on the millionaire's tax, and Loretta described it, it's not one penny more until you go over $1 million. We're not talking about millionaires, we're talking about multi-millionaires. And you know something, and on average it's $40,000 to them. But that's their share into the pot. They got to take money out while we had to put more money in, so we're not going to walk away from that commitment.
Okay. Hi, my friend Barbara has a question, but I have another one. She is looking at this brochure, and as she's reading it to me, it's a little murky. What it says is every household with income under $250,000 would get a new 10% property tax credit that could be taken when their income taxes are filed. So this is not going to be a reduction then of property taxes. This is going to be a credit towards the income tax. Is that? Oh, here's the one.
It really is, the credit is based on your property tax bill. So you're going to get that money back either as a credit against your state income tax liability, or if you don't have a state income tax liability, you're going to get money back
So
from
we'll
the
get a
state.
larger rebate.
So in effect, if you're paying, if you have a $7,500 property tax bill, you're going to get $750 back in your pocket.
And I want to...
Okay, now, let me just say, and this is just a wild guess, I would suppose that in this room, you've got a better ratio than 2 to 1. Just a wild guess.
I agree.
And we are also fortunate in this district that we have representation right here that understands the needs of the working class and the middle class and works in their benefit. However, that's clearly not the solution. And I'm with David here. How do we sell this program? How do we get, and I wish it were just a matter of petitions and writing to the governor and writing letters to the newspaper, which I've done once or twice in my life, but actually I like the idea of some sort of organized campaign to get to the people we need to get to, whether it's in other jurisdictions.
That's what I suggested.
That's why I'm backing you up. Some way.
Are you a team?
Some way. Oh, yeah. We just met. But we like each other very much.
That's good.
Love at first sight.
I was a union leader too.
Match made in heaven then.
Yeah.
Some way to move this plan forward. I think you're preaching to the choir.
Well, we got to keep preaching, and listen, we need people to go out and promote. And I want to add one thing with this plan.
Organize it. See, that's the problem.
But
You
let
have to
me,
organize it.
well, we're here now talking to people. We were in South Jersey, we're Central Jersey, we're out talking to people too. This plan, just so you know, doesn't collapse any other plans. All the other rebate plans, all the other programs, this is on top of. So, you know, when someone says, what do I lose when we do this? You lose nothing. This is 10% on top of. But you know what I'm saying? There's some confusion. Well, if I'm going to get this, what am I going to give up? You don't give up anything. And that's important.
That's how you get it done. might talk about that.
Steve, we first met about 12 years ago down in Washington, and I delivered a keynote speech at the National Building Trades. I'm a retired Local 164 electrician. And my message that day was for our labor organization to get involved and to deliver our own messages. What can we do? You have disciples here, and what can we do? Can I take this back to my town and make 1,000 copies and put it on in Borough Hall?
We'll get you 1,000 copies.
You know, Senate President talked about it. This is the third town meeting we've done. And I made a joke about the fact we don't get the glitz that the governor gets, but there's an element of seriousness in that. He is the governor, and he has, developed that reputation, so it's almost, as we said, people come to watch it like a Jerry Springer show. Who's he going to insult today? So it's become a sensation for reality TV. And we have chosen to try as best we can, being mere state legislators, to come out to the public and to tell you about the program that we are putting forth. And again, Senate President took me along as the majority leader in spite of the fact that we've had a few differences along the way. And I want to say something about the pension and health benefits, because I didn't vote for it. And I'm still the majority leader. But he was there. The governor is able to say, look at me, I did this. He was there in 2006, before Christie knew where the governor's office was. And he was talking about this because it was a serious problem. I thought the method could have been improved somewhat, but the outcome was important. Otherwise, there will be no pension system, because there was no money left. And it started under a prior Republican administration, Christie administration, but the Christie-Whitman administration, when the state was doing very well, as was the nation, in the Bill Clinton years, and she went out and refinanced the entire pension system. We are paying that debt today. And you add that to the fact that the state did not put money in, and neither did any municipality in the state of New Jersey. They all got a 5-year pension holiday. So every employee paid their portion of the pension, because it's taken out of your salary. You have no choice. But there wasn't a municipality in the state of New Jersey or county that didn't take advantage of the 5-year pension holiday. And if you went to any of those municipalities or counties to ask them where that money is now, I doubt anybody will know. But that's actually what happened. And as I said, the governor takes great credit and goes out nationally to talk about his comeback in New Jersey, but it was really Steve Sweeney that started the discussion. And whether you agree or disagree with the way it all turned out, he deserves respect for having been there long before Christie was.
We're going to try to get people that have a chance to speak.
Hi, I've been living in Teaneck 48 years, and I've seen my property taxes rise. But I was very lucky 4 years ago. I was told I could freeze my property taxes, and I ran to the tax department, and I had it frozen. And I don't think a lot of seniors know that they can freeze their property taxes, and I think they should be told or let it get known to them. You have to make a certain amount, or below a certain amount of money, but it's quite high now. What I found that I do pay my regular property taxes, and then a few months later I get the money back in a nice check. Last year I did not. They didn't give me the full amount. And I said, why? And they said, well, Governor Christie felt that you should get from the year before. And I said, well, I paid the full amount, but it really didn't matter. So anyway, as I said, one thing we should know is to let the seniors know that they can freeze their taxes at that particular time. And I think we should get back that money, the difference of what we paid in. And I'd like to know what you could do about that.
Well, I don't know if anybody remembers it was last summer, but I used pretty colorful language to describe what I thought about the budget. They weren't really nice words, but I felt about it. But the one thing I was actually proud of is we, up here, were successful putting back $60 million into that program that he did not have. So we're very happy with the fact that the one thing that actually stood, and honestly, we wrote it in a way he couldn't take it out. And he was very upset about it and cut other programs that really upset us, like programs for the visually impaired children, sexually abused children in Essex County. It was an ugly budget. It was an ugly, mean-spirited budget. And part of that was payback for putting the $60 million that he did not want to put in there. So we did well with that. We did very well with that. And it's a great program, and it is a lifeline for seniors to be able to stay here. So, well, you know, we support it wholeheartedly. It's frozen, I know. It's frozen again.
I'm a property owner, and I live in town. And I think that the governor's proposal is absurd. Any across-the-board thing on income taxes is totally unfair if it's the same amount for everybody. And we have to have another plan, and I admire your plan, and I know that you're saying that, you know, people are leaving and the property taxes are onerous. But if I lived in an apartment and paid rent, I wouldn't pay property tax, and and I would still get some little bit back on my income tax. Do you have an answer to that, or how are you going to sell that to them?
Well, honestly, if you pay rent under our plan, you get a $200 break. So you are going to get a break under our plan. It's quadruple what the governor says, thanks, Bob. We actually look at renters and make sure that they get some help, because they might not be paying property taxes directly, but they're paying it through their rent. So we make sure under our plan he does get that. And understand, look, the income tax sells in Chicago, it sells in Texas, it sells in California, because people don't deal with the property tax issue there. If you ran around the country talking about property taxes, you know what they say to you? What are you talking about? Because no one could believe we pay this type of property taxes nationally. It's a national message. That's why income tax sells nationally. But we happen to live in New Jersey. And if you're really going to talk about a tax that's hurting people, it wasn't too hard to figure out it's property taxes. But we did take into account the renters because they are paying too. You know what I mean? They're not paying directly, but they're paying through their rent. We're going to take 3 more, and then we're going to...
Okay, so we'll go to that gentleman, and then 2, 3.
Hi, I'm Veronica Elliskew. I live in Paramus, Senator Gordon's district, District 38. Thank you all for being here. I own a house in Paramus. I'd like to know if this plan on the right column would replace or add to the homestead rebate.
It's on top of.
Oh, so because...
Realize our plan, whatever plans are out there, they're still there.
Okay.
This is an addition to.
Yeah, because the rebate last year was a lot less than it is.
Yes.
And it just got a little better, so I'm wondering if you're going to be doing something with that as well.
Well, we wanted to make sure under my plan, it makes it very hard to, once we do this, to go backwards.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, there was an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer basically saying it really ties hands. But it's, you know, sometimes you got to tie government's hands too, because they like to spend money.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Gil Hawkins, and I'm a councilman in Leonia. And please call me an idiot.
No.
Well, you got,
I won't even yell at you.
That's another one, right?
Disagree, I won't yell at you either.
Well, it just seems like it's not any fun in New Jersey unless somebody calls me an idiot or something.
Of all people, we call somebody an idiot?
Plenty of people call me an idiot. In these days of sound bites, in these days of exactly what Christie is doing, is playing to the press, playing to the sound bites, playing to the public. And someone said, And I think it was probably one of the early Russians who was working on revolutions and said every revolution needs a flag, a motto, and a song. And I think you really have to name this plan. I think you have to really, well, that doesn't really do it. You know, I mean, you know, the Sweeney plan would be that. There you go. The Sweeney plan would be great. But really, in order to, as everybody is saying here, you really have to get this idea across. And you have to have something that really, you know, chimes with the public.
So I drove 2 hours up here to talk to you guys. Believe me, we're trying.
Okay, great.
Making an effort.
Thank you.
There's two, and this gentleman, and then that gentleman, and then we're going to wrap up. But we'll be around afterwards.
I want to thank you for being here. I live on the corner. I've been here since 1972, and I paid $26,000, and the taxes were very small for the house. And they were, I think, 17, and now they're 87. But my income is still low, so I learned about the senior freeze today, and I want to thank you for that, because seniors, especially disabled seniors, are having a hard time with the tax thing, as we all do. But taxes, we all know, are necessary to have the services that we get. Thank you.
Thank you. This gentleman, and we're going to wrap it up.
I want to pick up on the question that my team-decker to the right and go a little left of him. I think it's really very important that you make the case to the many, many tenants that, in fact, they will benefit more through some sort of calculation than they would have under the Christie income tax plan. Because I think part of the appeal of what you've got here is that you're not only taking care of the middle class, but you are also thinking about those who are most at risk. And there are more of those in the tenant community. I think you really need to build the picture of that and how you describe this.
I appreciate it. And Loretta said one more, so I'm going to do what she tells me to do. She's the majority leader in the meeting. She carries a mean stick.
I know you said no more questions and you want to wrap up, but I would like you to cut to the chase for all of us. If you present your plan to the Senate and the Assembly tomorrow, will it be voted or will it be voted down?
Our plan will pass the Senate, and we have to convince the Assembly. We have work to do with the Assembly right now because, again, it feels good to talk about a millionaire's tax. And we believe in it. There's no one up here that doesn't support it and wouldn't vote for it 20 times. But when you know that you're going to veto the bill that's going to give you this,
he's going to veto
when you need this, politics aside, this is real relief. So we're going to work real hard to get this done. And hopefully our Assembly colleagues will be on the same page.
So
back there.
Wouldn't it be reasonable to work with the Assembly people in the districts where they are likely to vote against this rather than coming to a town hall meeting every single night of the week?
Well, we're talking to our...
Essex, Morris,
Listen, the governor... The governor's going everywhere because he likes his plan.
He goes
likes
in his
income tax.
helicopter.
He likes income tax.
He goes in our helicopter.
He likes income tax.
4 words. Are there any Democrats who are in the Assembly who are not pledged to support this plan the way you have?
We don't know yet. I can't tag the Assembly.
Let us know.
I will.
That's what we need to know.
This one, and then I'm going to let Senator Sarlo wrap up.
4 words. What can we do?
Call the Assembly, reach around to your neighbors, ask them to call. We need groundswell. We need grassroots. Grassroots is here, right?
Yes.
We need grassroots.
Tell me who's the problem.
Listen, we need grassroots.
Tell me
We need to
who's the
raise
problem.
it. We need to raise the level. Listen, we're here. I'm in Bergen. Like I said, it's 8 o'clock at night. I got a 2-hour drive back. But it was extremely important for me to be in Bergen with my colleagues that are also up here. I've had Loretta all the way down the south, and but it's very, very, yes, I do owe you in a lot of ways. But it's important for us to start talking about this. Look, you got the pamphlets. You never knew about them. We can get them to you. We'd love grassroots efforts to get the word out so that all of our colleagues, and we're going to work with our Assembly colleagues to get this done. We're going to work very hard, but I'm going to ask Senator Sarlo to say a word or two, and then we'll be here afterwards. We'll talk to you. We're here.
Thank you, Steve. I just want to thank, let's hear it for our Senate President for coming all the way from Rochester County.
I actually had no intention of getting up and speaking tonight. I was going to sit here and listen, and as the chairman of the Senate Budget and Appropriations, I sort of live these budgets day in and day out, especially from March 1st through June 30th, and that's been going on for the last 8 years here. But I was very, very pleased to hear everyone speak tonight. I thought the questions were outstanding. I thought they were very detailed, and I thought the responses from our Senate President were just right on point, and of course our Majority Leader. And the talk here tonight was really about the middle class, and about each and every one of us. And we're all in this together. And we talked about revenues, we talked about a lot of complicated formulas, but you have to understand from the Budget Committee's perspective, when the Governor presents a budget to the Budget Committee, we go through line item by line item, but ultimately it comes down to, at the end of the day, the revenues that he will certify and what kind of spending opportunities we will put against that. And the plan that has been put forward by our Senate President, real results, real savings, real relief, is really accurate and it's responsible, because what the Governor has put forward, he has told us, I believe revenues will grow by 7 to 9%. And I think many of us in this room and up here think that is unrealistic. But he did say, with a caveat, my budget will include an income tax cut for everyone across the board, including millionaires. Okay? We, being responsible, dialed back that revenue expectation, dialed it back, and how could we provide real savings, property tax savings for our middle class? And that's the plan that's been put forward by our Senate President. It's a lot more modest plan when it comes to the revenue growth. Now, we all recognize if revenues continue to decrease, we're going to have to look at other alternatives. But as we sit here today, remember, not the Senate President, not Senator Gordon, not the Majority Leader. Ultimately, the Governor and his Treasurer will certify the amount of dollars that revenues. We are not going to allow him. He ultimately will certify a budget, but we're not going to allow him to include an income tax cut for the millionaire. We're going to, once he certifies those revenues, we believe the revenues that he will certify, Senator Sweeney's plan will work in the revenues that he will certify. We're not going to pass a budget that's going to include the left column. Once he certifies those revenues, we're pretty confident we think where he's going to certify, Senate President Sweeney plan will work under those revenue certifications. So there's a lot to happen, but this is a great start. And I was really pleased just to sit here and listen and listen to the questions tonight. You really understand what the Senate President, what the Majority Leader, Senator Gordon, and I are all really talking about. This is about us. We're all in this together. It's about the middle class.
With that, honestly, thank you for coming out. You know, it's Thursday night, right? Thursday evening. I'm kind of losing track of days, but really, thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you.
You won't always get what you want to hear, but you'll get an answer. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think it's the tax.